Hello again, and welcome back to Two Goss in the Coffin. I'm Amari.
And I'm Jude.
And welcome back to our latest installment in our series where we were just kind of chatting about and rewatching the Interview with a Vampire series. We started off with season 1. We finished that. You should go back and watch that. And now we are getting into season 2. So we have already done like live reactions to
the first
2.
video on our entire YouTube channel is a live reaction.
It was
to
janky as fuck, but
janky as fuck.
But you know what? There's like a cute.
There's a charm
to it. Yeah. Like even my hair is a little jank. Like it was a little janky, but
yeah.
It was fun. It's super exciting. And also it, coming off of the little premiere event as well.
Oh yeah, show the people.
I got to go to that last time.
Yeah, last season.
This is back in 2023. But yeah, I got to go back. I got to go to that, and I got to get autographs from people, and I took pictures. And maybe we'll post the pictures. I'll give them to Jude so they can post. I got pictures with Delaney, and Jacob. I didn't get pictures with my boo, but it's fine. Technically,
you're trying to say that Jacob isn't your boo?
Well, my other boo. I have many. Anyways.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, show.
But let me show off. Let me show off my autographs. Oh, I forgot that Delaney said thank you for coming. She's so cutie. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, show it.
Okay.
There we go.
Everyone's so jealous. Anyways, about to like ruin everything. But yeah, so that was super exciting, and watching that before anyone else did was so exhilarating. And seeing Delaney for the first time when she popped her little head up out of that hole, y'all, I died.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into that. All that to say is I have fond memories and fond feelings of the start of season 2, and super excited to get into it again today.
Yeah.
And maybe we have different feelings on things. Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. But let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So,
yes.
So yeah, how it starts off. First, Louis pops his little head up.
Well, first I want to say, speaking of Delaney, I love the way that they do the announcement that she is playing Claudia now, where it kind of like comes up almost very like theater there's a big theater energy obviously in this season, but it like starts with that sort of like, because all of season 1 and 2 kind of start with like the orchestra, tuning their instruments as like this curtain rises and then it gets into the episodes. And so when it does all of that, and then it's like the role of Claudia will now be played by Delaney Hales. It feels so theatrical, and I love it. It just feels like, I had said this in our live reaction, but it has the same energy as like when the understudy is taking on the role for the night, and it's just kind of like, here she is, Delaney Hales as Claudia for tonight's performance. And it's so, I don't know, it adds a tone, because I also noted in my rewatch that like when they show that war footage from the top, you hear the pages flipping as Louis flipping through the diaries, and that also kind of has a theatrical, like we're flipping through the script sort of vibe. So yeah, I wanted to mention that because I love how they just like did it by just being like, here's the new actress, and we're just like, okay, like addressing it right off the top.
Exactly.
It was so great.
Yeah. We love Delaney. I love you. But yeah, so like that's really how it starts off, and then we get into it. They are now in Europe. They've been there for a few years now.
Yeah.
And Louis pops his little head up. And at the premiere, everyone's like, ah! And then Delaney pops her little head up as Claudia, and everyone's like, ah! And I'm like, ah! And even now, rewatching it, I'm like, ah!
But yeah, and then you have like the voiceover of like the talking about the not dreaming and
yes. Oh my God.
that being a thing that kind of comes back and is very important, I think, for a lot of different reasons. But
yeah.
I also think because this is also the first time that we have like Armand as Armand. You know, not like Armand under the pretense of a different role. And
he's being so annoying, by the
yeah,
way.
but one of the first things he says about the dreams is because, like, you know, Louis like kind of musing on the idea of like not dreaming, and Armand's like, well, maybe it's like the dreaming of an infant, like tabula rasa, like clean slate. And I'm like, you would think that. He's like, what if there's nothing in that space? But that's kind of as a thing that you start to see, I think, from the beginning of this season, where even I think like, you know, we saw that some of the pages were strategically removed, and Louis and Armand addressed that directly later in this same episode with each other. And then Armand doing the whole like disregard, removing himself from the official record is like this recurring imagery of Armand removing himself or redacting himself. And like all I can think, and this is so annoying, like, so like whatever, but like I keep thinking of like the like lacuna, like or lacunae, like in like records where it's just like, well, there's a hole here and we don't know what's in the hole, like, and so we're just like including the hole as like part of the record. And like I feel like in a lot of ways like Armand occupies that space of like the blank space where things have happened around it, but then there's a spot that we don't know. And that, to me, when he like brings up tabula rasa, which like literally means like blank slate, like I think is thematically relevant. And you know, we get more of the Claudia is icing Louis out.
Yeah. She's upset. I mean, and now we know why. Now Louis remembers why. And you know, he actually thanks Daniel for it. Because he's getting these memories that were kind of broken or splintered or not full, and he's starting to remember different things. And that's one of them, was something he kind of had pushed down.
Yeah. And we're going through and we're seeing like Claudia really has to take the lead on a lot of it.
Yes.
Because, you know, she's done all this research and she's doing all this research. And I also think like Louis is there, but he's not there, you know, in a lot of ways. Right, and he just keeps being like, we should go home. We should go home.
Exactly. He's kind of back home still in a way.
Yeah. And Claudia's like, there is no home. There is no going back, because
what are we going to go back to?
Yeah. What is there to go back to? Like, even if like, cause you know, she's just like, the last time, if there is no going back, because if you go back, because I think like we talked about this a little bit in like when we were talking about like season 1 episode 6, where like Louis like, what if Lestat is the best there is and we only find worse things out there? Because whenever Claudia brings up, you know, like new research or something she saw or whatever, like Louis just like, we don't know that, this could be nothing, it's probably nothing, it's superstition, it's a fake story. And she's just, it's just like he won't try, like he's not trying.
Not to mention, oh, go ahead.
And I was like, and then he's like, you know, dragging the corpse of Lestat with him psychically throughout. And she's just like, if we go back and magically Lestat is like there, like the last time she interacted with him, he was ready to kill her and throw her out. Right. So she's like, go back to what?
Right.
For me, there is no back.
Right.
You know?
And even if like, they really believe that, like, you know, Lestat was dead, so Lestat couldn't come back for them, or Lestat, if they go back, Lestat's not going to be there. They can't go back to New Orleans, at least. Not so soon. Like, they left in a...
Yeah, they killed, like, a bunch of people.
Like, they can't go back to New Orleans, at least. They had to find somewhere else in the States than if they go back home. So, like, there really is nothing for them to go back to.
And
No,
my mom, my mom had made a reference when we were watching it that it felt like in the book of Exodus when like the Israelites are going through the desert.
Oh my God.
And they're
Yeah.
like, we should go back to Egypt. It was so great back in Egypt. And Moses is like, we were slaves in Egypt. You were enslaved in Egypt.
That's literally. Oh, your mom's so on it. That's so wild.
My mom will bring everything back to the Bible. But she was just like, it reminded her of that, and she was just like, they're in the middle of the desert and they're like, we had it so good, things were so great, and they're like, it literally was so bad. But it's because they're in the desert that they're like, it's horrible here, that they're romanticizing Egypt.
That's literally such a good comparison.
So
that's literally Louis like, let's go back home. Like, Lestat's literally right here, like beside me. I'm like, he's haunting me right now, and I'm having a lot of feelings about it. And Claudia's like, I don't care. What are you gonna go back to? There's nothing. Do you not remember what was going on back then?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of this episode is like Louis is longing for a past that's not there, because like I think like. I will say, like, the first Lestat scene, I think this to me is like the best one. Yeah. It's the most narratively coherent one of all of them.
It's the one that I like the most because everyone knows. I don't care what everyone else says. I have very mixed feelings on a lot of the other Dream Stat, whatever. But I do think this one's like the best one as well, and also it's like full on. It's the gothic horror in it all, and
it's so gothic.
It's so good. The bird flying out of his throat.
Yes, madness. Anyway, but yeah, and then I think for me, it's something I was thinking about as we go forward with like the Ghost Lestat, like apparition, hallucination. That I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of discussion about like what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean in any given scene? And I'm like, for me, this first scene establishes what it is and how it functions, because like Louis, well, when it's just like to answer your question, like when Lestat's like, to answer your question, I'm gonna fucking kill you, but I'm gonna wait until you're happy. And then every single time this like apparition shows up, it's a lot of times when like Louis is happy, like, or like when Louis is starting to like live another life, or try and make this new life in Paris, we have this like ghost apparition of Lestat show up, and it's just like the constant paranoia of like not knowing what's up, and like it's like the also
it's later when he of his anxieties.
It's a function of his anxiety, and I think it comes back up when like in episode 2 when we get to it, like the portrait of Lestat is there, and it's just like, and wait, he's hanging over this as well, and like Armand talks about him as being a co-founder, so like he's hanging over Armand as well, and it's just like there's an uncertainty here, and so for me that's always what it's kind of represented, is like Louis being paranoid and Louis being anxious about how is Lestat going to ruin this relationship, whether he like shows back up for real and kills him, or how he's going to metaphorically ruin this relationship with from like all the baggage. From all the baggage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's interesting. And I do like this first one.
This first one is
really great. Yeah, it's amazing. And then I guess I also want to like dig back into Dubai a little bit, and how the dynamic has shifted. I do kind of wonder because like despite what Louis and Armand's relationship is right now, Armand showed up in his like little corporate Dom outfit, and I'm like, I feel like that was him kind of reasserting his power with Daniel. And I don't know. It's him reasserting his power, but then so in response to that, Daniel, who loves to be a liberal racist, is then trying to flex whatever little power he still has, and so he doubles down on real Rashid. And I'm like, back up from him a little bit. And so it's like the dynamics have like truly shifted.
And something I noticed I guess, looking at like the costuming is like Armand is wearing white in the scene in Dubai, and so he's like standing off of the background, and that he never does that in any other scene. He's usually wearing colors that make him blend into the background. He does that at the end of this episode. He's wearing gray to sit on the gray couch with Louis, who's wearing black, and like he blends in
together and blend into the background.
Yeah, but in this scene, he's wearing white. He's standing off of the background, and I think like it is this sort of like. Also, I think like he is present. He is here now. He's in the room, and it's also the absurdity of him being like disregard when he's like this. He's like so he's in the way. He's there. He's the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's and his attitude when like he's just like, I'm in our dining room.
He's so irritating.
He's just like, oh, what? I'm not allowed to be in my dining room. And it's just like, if you're not going to participate in the interview.
I have a question for Louis, and my question is, why do you only date the most brattiest of men? But
it's because he's a brat and like attracts like.
Brat for brat.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But one of the things I was noticing as well when we're talking about like all of these things is like at the beginning of this episode where they show the battlefield, and we have Louis talking about when he's like mentions like humanity's ideological rift, and I think a lot of this episode is the drawing of battle lines. Like you have this ideological rift between Louis and Claudia. Right. You also have like the battle lines being drawn in Dubai, where like Daniel doesn't trust what happened at the end of episode 7 in season 1. I don't think he knows what to make of it. He either is like, is Louis lying to make it seem more empathetic, or like is Louis completely unreliable and everything has to be thrown out, or like what is happening here? Why was this guy in disguise? What am I being fed right now? And so he's drawn a line against Louis and Armand, and you kind of have Armand who's mentally drawing a line against like Daniel and trying to see how he can get it to be him and Louis versus Daniel. And so there's all of these like lines being drawn in this episode as well.
Right.
And of course they're traveling through Europe. They get to Romania, and now we have
another thing I want to mention as they're traveling, and then also is kind of reinforced once they get to that little shelter in Romania, is that there are a lot of people right now. There's a big discussion on like race in the show specifically going on right now, and I feel like this episode really reasserts what was going on in season 1, where race was definitely in conversation, and this one is definitely remembering that race is within conversation of the show, because like even though they're vampires, they're still having to like Louis and Claudia are having to play as like servants to be able to get around because they're black and Hungary. What was it? Ukraine? Where
all of them, TBH. But like,
I know. Where were they before Romania? I can't remember.
I don't know, because they stole a bunch of passports. So like they've just been kind of like traveling around.
Yeah, they've been traveling around. But yeah, just like getting through Eastern Europe, they are having to pretend to be, servants and whatnot, and this and that, because their blackness is still like they can't like run away from being black. It's just who they are. Vampirism doesn't fix that.
And also it stands out because if they're clocked as like Americans, they're in enemy territory as well. So like
black and American, like it's rough. And I appreciate that they didn't forget about that.
And then when they're in Romania and they go to the shelter and everyone's like staring at them, and Amelia's trying to like break the tension by being like, they're not used to seeing a man with good looks,
and we're like, we know what's going on for real.
Yeah. And she's just like, trying to like ease the tension.
They
but
brought
like
vodka and cigarettes. Let's all be chill, please.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think like Amelia specifically has like a survivor's mentality of she's like, you take who will help you, you know?
Right.
She's just like, I don't care.
Yeah. She was a real one.
Yeah.
It should have been
And
Morgan
so
who died, but whatever.
they show up, and then I think like one of the things that got me here is how once again Louis' desire for comfort makes things ruins their cover, you know?
Like he already gave his real name already.
He gave his real name when Morgan showed up, because Morgan is similar to him. They're both like he's looking for a guy who's like, you know, I don't want to say like more cultured, but like one of those guys that like he likes to hang out with. And so he sees this guy, and when I'm saying like it's immediately throws out their cover, and Claudia gives him a look and she's like, what the fuck is your problem? Because then Morgan gives him the chance to check when he's like, oh, I forgot, what did you say your name was again? And he doubles down on it being Louis. And it's just like, you're fucking stupid. Right. You're stupid. Because what are you doing? In addition to everything else that's wrong that gets like, you know, picked up on at the end of this, you know, interaction with Morgan, it's like at the beginning, he's just ready to throw it away because he wants to hang out with the other adults, you know, and he sends Claudia to go be with the kids. Yeah. And when they have the edited memory, when he remembers that like Claudia went away, and then he asks them what's going on in the woods. It's like, that's info Claudia would want to be privy to. And you sent her to the kids' table, basically, to not be a part of this conversation.
He also, like, he did say that they might, I don't know, they might know something or whatever. And the kids did, like, tell. So I'm kind of wondering if, like, yeah, he was being, like, dismissive about it, about, like, you know, go play with the kids. But, like, also, kids do know things that also, like,
kids will know things, but they know things the way a kid knows them, and not in the ways that adults have their finger to the pulse of it, you know?
Yeah.
And like, she does go into the woods and find the game and like meet the vampire, but it's just like she ends up having to push through the kids anyway. Like, it's like she learned info from them. Yeah. She just had to be in that situation and like be like, what are you guys doing? Let me go look at this, you know, on my own. Yeah. They didn't like actually share info with her because they weren't interested in playing with her, you know?
Well, yeah, because they were too busy. Well, they're too busy being racist. I know. I'm like, I'm glad she showed that. Fuck them kids. That's what she should have said. Yeah. But yeah, okay. Well, okay, so after that, though, like, she does go to the woods, and Claudia is truly the loneliest girl in the world, because even though, like, she finds like the most craziest looking ass vampires.
I would not have thought that was a vampire. I'd be like, what the hell?
Some other kind of blood sucking creature, because you're not. The way that Lou was like cabbage with teeth.
He was like, we're not. I love when he's like, it's dirty.
He's like, yuck.
Ew. But yeah,
she doesn't care though. She's like, no, but they're still like us, and she's so desperate for like some kind of connection that she's able to look all past that, and it makes me so sad.
Yeah, and then also like something I was thinking about is, I think because in a way she's not going to turn it away because it's like a fucked up vampire, because in a way like she's also a fucked up vampire. So she's like, why? She's like, I don't know why it looks like that. There could be a lot of reasons why this vampire could look like that. And like, she doesn't possess all of the capacities of a vampire because of issues when she was turned. So why is she going to turn around and be like, ew, not you? Because like, they could have camaraderie over that. And so she won't write it off as being like a non-sentient creature. Like, this to her is still like a potential friend and ally, because she's like, we've talked a little bit about like Claudia's vampirism as like a metaphor for disability as well. And so it's just like, why would she write off another like potentially disabled vampire in this metaphor? And then when we kind of like meet this vampire's maker, she also kind of she's like, he's just a baby.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's this like care she has for him, even though he is a weirdo, fucked up, nasty revenant. But yeah, and then she goes back to Louis with, I love when she's just in there, she's like, I fell out of tree. It gives me like, Dad, I threw up.
So excited, but yes, yeah.
Because I like the way she just goes, Daddy, I fell out of tree. And I'm just like, it had big little kid energy. Because like, yeah, Louis is like trying to, you know, have, you know, fun with these people, and like he's listening to the music.
Well,
and
Morgan ruins it, decides to be a fucking weirdo.
What I was gonna say was like, he is reminded of, I think like he was able to be like, well, my outcast status is because I'm in this weird like refugee system, like situation with like Claudia where we can't settle. And then he's like, well, we can settle here for a little bit. And then immediately he's like, no, I can't. Yeah, but I think also he thinks maybe it's the location because they're in rural Romania, you know? And then, you know, they have the Edith Piaf playing on the radio. And one of the things I also made a note of was like another, you know, layering of Hitler and Lestat, where you have the thing of like being like, after the triumph over Hitler, these precious works of art are returning to their home. And like Louis later in this episode kind of like referring to Paris as like the mother of New Orleans, and like in a way like the homeland. He calls it the mother, he calls French the mother tongue in episode 2. Mm-hmm. So there is like this like France and Paris as like returning home in a way.
Right. As close as they're gonna get.
As close as they're gonna get. And so he's there, and Morgan is like, says, I think like the metaphor for the episode, where he's like, if you're a deserter, you should turn back and take your punishment, because that's gonna be better than whatever's waiting for you in Uncle Joe's utopia. And this like,
if that ain't Louis like, great, because that's already what I've been thinking anyways, thanks.
Well, also it's just like the foreshadowing of it all, of being like, you should go, like the one authoritarian regime versus another authoritarian regime. Lestat being posited as like the discipline of the US Army versus Armand being Stalin. It's just like these two entities as half of like two halves of the Cold War,
right?
Which is, you know, kicking off at this point in time. And I just think it's really interesting. And
no, it is like him saying, I'm like, right on the money.
Right on the money. And then we have like the most that Claudia and Louis have spoken this episode is their argument. When she comes back and she's like telling him about what she saw, and he's, you know, once again being dismissive. Like, you didn't see anything. It was a baboon. Are you stupid?
Baboon? And she's like, be fucking for her right now. Don't piss me off.
And then when like, you know, she's like, because Louis just like, stop being pissed at me for not finishing the plan. And she's like, that's not why I'm angry with you. I'm angry with you because you won't let it go. You won't let go of the past, and you won't move forward. Right. We're trying to move forward, and you are dragging this corpse with you, and like you're not giving it a shot. You're not moving forward. You're stuck, and you're useless to me in this capacity, because you don't want to even, and Louis doesn't want to dream of more. He doesn't want to consider more. Right. And she's like, you won't make the effort for me to consider what more could be, because you're so caught up on where you've been. And like, they have this big fight about it. And you know, it's very sad, but it's just like, it feels like she's just like, you're not, when are you going to try for me? Like, when are you going to help me? Because either you're helping me or you're hindering me. Yeah. Why is being here with me not enough? Why do you have to drag this ghost with you to supplement this? Because like, if he wasn't constantly like having to like carrying around this apparition in his brain that he sought for comfort, because he described it as like, he would bring up this like Lestat to keep him company when he's like traversing the drab landscape. Talk to Claudia.
Right. Right.
If he didn't do that, Claudia would have opened up to him already. But he's not doing that. And that's why the scene at the very end of this episode is so important, because he's doing what she wants him to do, which is open up to her and see her as actually a viable companion, you know? But he's not doing that yet. And that's why she's like, well, if he can't, you know, take you ballroom dancing and tell you you're pretty, you know, to hell with him then. Because she's just like, you're not trying for me.
Right.
Like, if you can't potentially date this one, you don't want to get involved. Right. And, you know, it's very bitter, but it's also very true, you know, for her, how she's feeling. And, you know, then we get the scene where, like, he sees Claudia dreaming for real.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Oh, God. It breaks him down.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Like, realizations.
And I think, like, that bit, and one of the things I had like written down was when he was like, you know, taught this whole conversation about like voids and redactions and all of that, when he's just like, what's worse than a nightmare? And he's like, the void, the nothingness. And it's just like, you know, he's like, what's it? Yeah, I have it written down. It's like, if your soul's projecting out its fears, at least it's up and running. Right. So it's just like, beautiful. Even if there's horror there, at least, you know, it's there. At least, you know, you're feeling something.
Alive. You're feeling so. Yeah. It's that little piece of humanity. Because I'm sure, like, they feel like, or Louis feels like, once you get to a certain age of like vampirism, like he's afraid of that, just feeling that feeling of nothing, and just he's clinging to that bit of like humanity, that human aspect of being able to dream and being able to want and be able to just
even being able to feel pain and being able to be sad and being able to be scared, right. Because, you know, she's having this nightmare. And right. Like, I had said this to you, that I was like, I was wondering if she was having a nightmare because she was sleeping under the floor. Like, you're like, I can't.
Why would you do this to me right now?
I had thought about this earlier, like a while ago, but I was just like,
oh my God. I hate that. I absolutely hate that.
I don't, again, you're like, I don't want to think of it.
I don't want to think about it. Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good point, though. And it probably, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is one reason why he never ever actually really noticed her dreaming or having nightmares or whatnot, because this is one that like really like triggered something for real, that it was so disturbing, so bringing so much, like, it was so she was so distraught that, like, you know, her body's like reacting to it. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like, why are you putting that out in the air? Oh God, I'm gonna cry.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah. Like, I think also in a way, like, because like they both have baggage. Louis not the only one with baggage here.
Right.
Claudia is looking for other vampires for her own reasons as well. And like when she mentions it, and she's just like, I've only met 4 vampires in my life, and all of them have been bastards. And I'm just looking for one who's not horrible. I'm just looking for one. And so they go, and they're like, one of the things I thought of with like this scene when like they're watching the whole, you know, issue with like Amelia, she's been bitten, and Morgan is begging Louis for help, is all because, you know, Claudia's is like, is that enough confirmation of a vampire out there for you? And she's like, all right, let's go. And Louis turns away from Morgan and leaves. And it made me think of this same season, episode 6, when like Claudia's like, sometimes to get something, you have to give up something. And it's like, in order to have vampiric companionship, you have to give up on humanity. And so Louis turns his back literally in that moment on humanity and has to go. Yeah. If they're going to interact with the vampires, he has to step away from humanity, you know?
Yeah. And I'm also looking at Morgan, like, first after the way he like treated Louis, to the audacity to be like asking him for help. But also I'm like, what do you think that, even like, if he doesn't know that they're vampires, so what do you think that a Black American man was going to do in this situation? Like,
it's like there wasn't really anything he can do, and I know he's doing it out of desperation because he's seeing like the woman he loves, they're talking about cutting her head off in front of him,
which is
which is a lot. And like Amelia was like, she was also in charge of the town. Like she was important and helping a lot of people, but like there's also not much that Louis could have done anyway.
Right.
And it puts him in more danger to get suspicion on himself anyway, because he is a vampire. He is the thing that they're looking for and trying to hunt down.
Oops.
Yeah, because especially if they're just like, we never see you in the daytime, and it's just like
crazy.
That's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, and then they meet the Revenant.
Okay, I do love
the creepy girl trap.
Yes, I do love them working together to set a trap. I know that Louis does not love, killing humans or whatnot, but
he didn't kill this guy. He just broke his leg as the bait.
Yeah, well, he stirred him up as bait to be killed. So, I know that Louis doesn't love this stuff, but it's so fun when they work together. I need them to work together more on things like this, like being... it was so fun.
It is super fun.
But yeah, so they they use that guy's bait, and the Revenant comes along, chomping, and that's when Louis is like,
ew.
Yuck.
Yeah, but I think this is another case of Claudia being like, just fucking give it a shot, give it a chance. Right. And then he gets tackled by Daciana, and he's getting fucked up, and then Claudia's like, and then she's dealing with the Revenant situation, and she rips out his eyes, always on that dismemberment train, and Daciana's just she's like, what's wrong with you?
Well,
he's literally just a baby. And they're like,
baby was attacking everyone else.
He's like, he bit me. No, but yeah. And so then she kills him, and then, she walks away, and they follow. And they go to the old castle. And I think I said this in our live, I haven't rewatched our live reaction video since I edited it a million years ago. But this Daciana to me feels like a reference to in the vampire Lestat, when Lestat meets Armand, and then the older vampire who's with him, like that old woman vampire who's there as like one of the last holdouts of the Children of Darkness, and then she like also throws herself in a fire. But I feel like we're having this whole conversation about like, and all I could think of, I kept thinking of that quote when like, Claudia's having this conversation with her about like, we could take you to America and we could have this whole thing. And but Daciana's tired. Like you could feel that she's really tired. Right. And the world is not meant for her anymore. Like this old world vampire can't exist like this anymore in the age of like cars and machine guns and whatnot. And, she's drinking this blood it's barely keeping her alive, and she can't make new ones anymore because like the will isn't there. Like it's just a broken down people with blood that doesn't sustain anymore. And I just kept thinking of like the old like socialist like Marxist quote where it's like the old world is dying as the new world struggles to be born. Like and it's just like this the old guard is gone, is on its way out. And when Claudia gives like the little bit of her blood to Daciana, and she's just like, there is that moment of connection before she like throws herself out, because I think there's two reads I feel like of Daciana like burning herself, which I think one is like punishment for killing her baby, but also I think it's like she's playing with the fantasy, but she's like,
she doesn't actually have to go across the ocean and leave.
No, she doesn't want to do any of that anymore. She's like, she's run her course. She's like, this is over, and this is a fun dream,
right?
But it's not a reality, right. And we can't live like this anymore, in the same way. And she goes, she's like, it's not enough. Right. And it's sad.
It's so sad all around.
Yeah.
Devastating for Claudia, who has been wanting this kind of connection for so long, and then just to see her literally and this desire burst into flames, like it's
because like vampires don't typically make it that long, like centuries. If you can make it past like a certain bound, then they're like, you'll live forever, but you gotta make it past this benchmark, and most don't, because it's a lot. And, you know, it goes back to, I think, the title of the episode, which we forgot to say at the top, but that's fine. But it's just like, what can the damned say to the damned? And it's just like, you know, what do you say in this situation? Like, because they're all, you know, in states of hopelessness, in states of like, how do we move forward? And it's just like, what advice can we possibly give to each other when we're all in the same, like, desperate and depressing situation? And then, you know, we get to technically, I guess first we have like the conversation in the bedroom with Louis and Armand.
Right.
Where I guess once again we have another one of the world's craziest cross dissolves, where it's Claudia's face and then it fades out onto the Lumond bedroom.
Right.
Which goes, when we were talking in episode 5 of season 1, where we're like, Claudia is always in a way haunting this relationship and haunting the bedroom. But yeah, and then they go in and Louis just like talking about wanting to get the pages so that he can look over them. And
it's a good reveal into the true like power dynamic also within the relationship, while, you know, they can like, you know, do their little fun little role plays. I think it's interesting that one, Armand is just selling shit without, you know, even talking to Louis. Louis has to come and ask for, you know, the diaries.
Things are happening in this house that Louis isn't
not
privy
aware of. But yeah.
And then the conversation, I love Armand's delivery on "put him on a plane" is what I mean, when he's talking about ending it. And Louis like, no. And he's like, I didn't say kill him. I said end the interview. But one of the things I also love about the conversation is when, like, you know, he's like, may I make an observation? And Louis says, I've lost control. But then like, and Armand has that conversation, and then there's silence and you hear the groan. And Louis like, what was your observation? Because he realizes that, yes, that may have been half of it, but clearly Armand is still irritated about something else. And it's like, there's just such a familiar... Watching them together literally feels like these are two people who are so intimately aware of each other.
They are very in tuned. And I love that about...
And I do think it's interesting that, like, when Armand is like, one of the things I thought was fun was when he's, you know, talking about Daniel in the past, and he's like the boy who barely understood the meaning of the story he was being told, being a reversal of or a subversion of when Daniel was like, you don't understand the meaning of your own story. And Armand's like, no, you don't understand what's being told to you. But then when he's just like, we could have him saying what's next in no time, and Louis like, I'm intrigued, even though he's apparently was like, I want the truth. But then when Armand's like, we could just have him listen, Louis like, do tell. He's getting a little mouthy, and I'm not about this.
Yeah, he's doing a little too much. But yeah.
And I love it, that whole bit, and the insanity of them like going into under the covers at the exact same time. It's just like, you guys are crazy.
In sync. And then they're very in sync. It
reminded me of like because I thought of it in episode, the beginning of episode 5, when like Lestat and Louis go into their coffins and they do it at the exact same time. It's like the synchronization of people who have been together for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then when they show up the next evening.
Yeah, let's go. But they're looking good. They're looking good. But before we get into what all happens with that, you then have Louis and Claudia's conversation.
That happens after this, but yes.
I know, but like...
Oh yeah, you want to get into that Before? Okay.
Because I mean, it kind of just leads up into episode 2, and you know,
that is true.
So, but yeah, and that conversation, one, like, it's beautifully done, but also so heartbreaking, and it absolutely kills me
every time.
It kills me every time. Claudia's face,
oh my god,
Jesus Christ, like, she needs this. What happened with Daciana just kind of like broke something in her. This is the first time I've ever seen her so defeated.
Hopeless, yeah.
And so like she's, and if Louis gonna offer, she's like, well, I'm gonna take it if you're gonna offer that this is like really like you and me for real. I'm gonna take it because I don't have anything else, and this is what I've been wanting since the beginning. I also kind of wonder if seeing that also just kind of triggered anything as well, with knowing how suicidal Louis is, and so him giving that reassurance that it's the two of them, kind of also relieving some of that as well, and saying like, as long as you're here, I'm never gonna touch the fire. Like, I was kind of wondering.
I think because also part of Louis being this dead weight, you know, according to her own words, and like Louis being so caught up on the past and Louis not wanting to move forward, there is the fear there that one day she's gonna wake up and show a pile of ashes, you know, like she will be truly alone. And yeah, I think one, having that reassurance, because like also I think that feeds back into her being enough, because if she's enough, Louis won't kill himself. And since Louis wouldn't let go of the past, she can never be sure if one day Louis was just going to be gone. But Louis, one, reasserting that it's them, they are a team, and if she was the last vampire on Earth, it would be enough, which is what she wants to hear. And then on top of it, him being like, and because you're enough, I'm never going to taste the fire. Right. And so she's like, okay. And so there's this reassurance that if everything, like, you know, if nothing pans out, if this is all a dud, if they go to Paris and they don't find anything at all, at least she has Louis. In a real way, not just there as like a ghost in his own right, but like as a person who is her companion. He is there. I think is absolutely a reassurance for her. And yeah, it's such a good episode, and I love that scene so much. And like the way that Claudia only has one line in that scene, which is okay, but she is doing so much in that scene with her face. And I love that she looks, because like, you know, during the episode, she like, you know, she was carrying a gun, she was smoking cigarettes. And in this moment, you're like, that's a little kid. Yeah. That's a dejected child who's just had like, you know, rejection after rejection after rejection. And she's just sitting there and she's just like, you know, like sad.
It's so sad. Oh my God.
And then Louis is just like, it's like, you have to step up for her. She can't always be the one stepping up for you. Yeah. Exactly. And so he does in this moment.
He can't be the only strong one carrying everything all the time. Like,
yeah. And then we go into episode, as this like directly, like, you know, leading into episode 2, where they like, you know, now they're in Paris for real. And the episode is, do you know what it means to be loved by death? And you know, we're seeing, I think, we're seeing some growing pains of them being there and settling into this relationship. A lot of this episode is like, what are we going to be to each other? Who are we going to be? The introduction of those questions. And yeah, so we have the smooth jazz intro into Paris.
I know, it's so good. I was like, okay, I see y'all. We're getting into
it. Yeah. And, you know, there's so many metaphors here in general for like, you know, the city is recovering from the war. Louis and Claudia are recovering from New Orleans and everything that went down there. And while they're trying to do this, Daniel is being annoying. And he just keeps being like, Paris sucks. And it's like, shut up.
Paris sucks.
But we see... Yeah, and then we see like Louis try and be like, well, you proposed to Alice in Paris, once again trying to be like, don't you have empathy, like some sort of connection to the city? And Daniel's like, no.
They're constantly trying to have to like literally pull some kind of empathy from this man.
And we got like, some of it at the end in episode 1 of this season where like Louis
had to fucking cry.
Yeah,
to do that.
I think he was him crying about like his daughter and all of that, and like having a realization about her.
Yeah, that touched something.
That really touched something for him.
Yeah.
But then we have, I think, also Daniel's also like back up because Louis and Armand have entered in this scene as like the united front.
Now they're like
team.
They're like walking in. He's like, "Hello, fellas," and they're like. They're like finishing other sentences.
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting in this scene, sorry, one of the things that was interesting is when like Louis just like, it's hard to put it into words, and you have Armand say, "May I try?" and then Louis like, "Please." And so basically now Armand has permission to editorialize on Louis' behalf.
That's also part of it, and that's also that is like the real reason why he's like, let's team up. But you know. It's cute, at least.
They're having this conversation about like, you know, they're in Paris, and we you know, have the first sort of Louis and Armand teaming up to psychically terrorize that old man.
Period.
Well, because Armand, I think, points out something important, which is like there's a lot of projection going on Daniel's end. That he's just like, you're, you know, throwing all this out, but what you're not doing is listening to what's being told to you. We're having conversation, and Daniel tries to be like, did you know that racism existed in Paris as well? And Louis to Louis and Armand.
That was so annoying. I was going to bring that up. You already brought it up before me.
Yeah.
And it was, once again, we're seeing how Daniel and his little liberal racism comes out all the time. Him being so disrespectful to these two people of color who know. They know.
Yeah. Armand knows what racism in Paris looks like. He's experienced it for like almost 400 years.
And the whole thing is like, if you even you're supposed to be the smart guy, but like everyone knows that a lot of like Black Americans went to Paris because the experience was different from them than from what they received at home. So Mr. fucking smart guy being a smart aleck, you're not very smart then, huh?
There was a huge like post-war.
What about I'm like,
yeah, there was a huge post-war move of like, especially like Black artists and Black intellectuals to Paris for this exact reason. And we see Louis entering into this space and wanting to engage in this same space.
Exactly.
Especially because like, you know, post-war, we're getting the rebirth of the Parisian avant-garde, which he kind of mentions when he's just like during the war, they all had to kind of like run off to the sides, and now they're coming back up. And, you know, there's all of this going on, and while that's going on, Armand is like, we were trying to figure out what your deal was, because you all showed up and then just were like doing whatever. Yeah, so he's just like, where did they come from? What are they doing? What is this whole situation? And though they were like, you know, basically watching them for months and months as they were, you know, enjoying the being Black Americans in Paris, because especially like for Americans in general being in Paris post-war, there was a huge welcoming energy because of like the liberation of Paris and the idea of like how the American army played a role in the liberation of Paris. So there was the assumption that when they saw Americans and Black Americans in Paris, that you fought in the war, especially if you were Louis' age, you're in your 30s, you fought in the war. So there's like a energy and a respect kind of just given there. There's a cat.
Just so everyone knows why I was looking around, like, because my cat's here now. Say hello, Anthony. She has thoughts. Okay, good.
one of the things I also thought was interesting was when like Louis is referring to Paris as a woman and Claudia's just like, you're gonna tell me what a woman is. Right. And I think like part of it is her trying to define herself, because I love her diary entry and I love the delivery of it a lot. And when we see it, there's a huge noir feel to this season as well. And the delivery when she's like walking in the rain in Paris and she's just like, maybe I want to be joyfully joyless, and it's just like very noir.
I love it.
And
well, yeah, she's trying to figure out who she is and who she wants to be, and this is why she also is trying to push Louis to also figure out who he's going to be without her. She's like, she doesn't, Louis? Because I need to be able to figure out who I am.
Yeah, you. And then we have her come across the dress shop, and like there's this idea of like reinventing yourself through clothes, and so she's like, I want this outfit and I want it tailored to me to like fit this image, and
she looks so cute in that
dress. And then meeting Madeleine in this context of Madeleine, who's just like, get out of my shop, and she's just like, I refuse to leave, and she then hands over a ton of money, and she's like, you're weird. Yes, I'll take the order. And then I think Claudia also being like, this person, when the people are like being like, don't go in there, she's like, this person literally has no legs to stand on and can't really afford to refuse service. So just being like, you're an outcast, I'm an outcast, make me this dress, or tailor this dress, I guess. But yeah, and so then we have like Louis being like, I'm in my photography era. This is a random note, but when they're talking about their little apartment, there's something very interesting to me about hearing Armand use the word sex worker to refer to like the people who live in those apartments, like, because like the word, the term, the historical nature of the word sex worker is to like add a dignity and being like, this is what they do for work. And so something about like Armand being like, they were in between like the artists and the sex workers, or like whatever. And I was just like,
especially
that's not a word you've ever used.
Yeah, but I think especially after what Daniel says in the previous season, and like referring to him as a red boy, I feel like definitely he's like, well, here's putting some respect on people's names.
Yeah, he's like, we're in 2022. There's sex workers now, Daniel. But yeah, and all of that, and Louis talking about photography and getting into photography, and I've had a lot of feelings about it. I was like, I don't know if this is like the space for it, because when he talks about it, like capturing time and like turning a millisecond into an hour,
in other episodes.
Absolutely,
but yeah.
And then something else, I the whole like Louis and Armand's performance of like being a couple at this point, I think leads up to when they actually do meet for real, the authenticity of it, like of them recalling this memory. It feels different than what they're doing before, when they're just like, the whole like, the widest of lies turning 77 this year.
Oh my god,
don't leave Dubai until you've made him retract it. And then
they're so annoying.
They're so annoying.
And Armand jumping in with the also, everyone remember that I was with Louis longer than Lestat, okay? 40 years longer.
Yeah, because when Daniel's just like, are you going to finish each other's sentences the whole time? And they're just like, we have been together like longer than you've been alive, at this point. So it's just like, we know we're that's gonna happen, especially when we're talking about like the story of how we met. So yeah, and then Armand basically in his own thing being like, we couldn't wait any longer for them to find their way to us, despite the fact that down the street there was a theater that had been around for 150 years called the Théâtre des Vampires that they just were very incurious about, I suppose.
Louis like, I wasn't fucking with no theaters
He's
anymore.
Like, I'm not trying to go to the theater. But yeah, so then he's like, he meets him in the park, and I love
it's so good.
Their descriptions of each other so much, because they're not flattering. To be honest, like Armand being like he looked awkward, and Louis being like he Yes,
Yeah,
just say
no,
it.
go
Sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
Like you say it. Like you say it.
well, you know, when there's a delay in a recording and we're like, oh, we're interrupting each other. But yeah, there are descriptions of like Armand being like, he looked awkward, and then Louis being like, he looked like a boy masquerading as a gentleman, and you know, his
Both of them
hat
with
being
the
too big for
biggest
his
fucking
damn head.
eyes looking at each other. Louis with his fucking deer eyes, and then Armand with his fucking just big old giant eyes looking at him. I'm like,
bigs his eyes at him. But but then, you know, like a part of this whole thing, like when you can feel them get like caught up in the feelings that they felt when they first saw each other, and it feels real. This is a moment that doesn't feel like a performance. It's like it is real and genuine.
It briefly breaks that little performance, and it's so sweet. And until, I mean, it's, you know, it's still sweet, but like now that we've seen,
what did she do?
Knock over everything. Now that we've seen, like, obviously what happens, our mom being like, and I, you know, Louis like, the first thing you said to me, you know, I will never harm you.
I will not harm you.
I will not harm you. And our mom be like, and I never have. And I'm like, well, no, maybe not. You physically do.
Yeah, and I think that's how Armand gets away with. I think even this whole thing, Armand is not willing. Armand doesn't make a decision. And when he says, like, when he met with them, it's because the coven was like, you've got to make a decision about them.
Yeah.
So we kind of introduced this idea. I don't know how fictional or fictionalized it is, of like Armand having, at the behest of others, make a decision. So it was the coven that pushed him to actually like approach Louis. It lets him,
you know, not take any kind of accountability.
He loves to dodge responsibility.
It wasn't me.
No,
I had to.
And they go to the theater.
Yeah.
And I have my little Théâtre des Vampires poster. Oh God, I hit everything. But yeah, they go to the theater, and I was thinking a lot about when I was watching it. Okay, so for people who don't know, I basically have an art history minor, and the thing that I have a lot of interest in is the Parisian avant-garde from the 1900s to the 1950s. So when I had first started seeing what they were doing with the Théâtre des Vampires, I was like, I was like, rubs my hand. Oh, sorry. Once again, I was like, rubs my hand together like a fly. Like, I was just like, I was so excited. But yeah, when like the first promo stuff came out, that was like clearly references to and I always pronounce it wrong, so everybody mind your business. But like the Grand Guignol, sort of like theater. And then I was also
so excited.
I was very excited. And then there's this whole energy to it. And when I was rewatching it this time, I was thinking a lot about both the theater of cruelty and the theater of the absurd, which both would have been like contemporaneous theatrical movements around the time that the Théâtre des Vampires was operating. And they make a very clear reference to the theater of the absurd by having Samuel Barclay as the stand-in for Samuel Beckett, the writer of Waiting for Godot, which they directly reference in the show. And then also they literally have Sartre here, so like there is a big like emphasis on the theater of the absurd. But when I was thinking about the theater of cruelty, which it was about like reintroducing magic and ritual to theater, and I kind of see like the previous, like the plays that lead up to the one, like Armand's like the previous plays didn't matter, the one that matters is the last one. It's in a way like casting a spell or an incantation over the audience to like believe that it's fake, to like embrace the fiction, so that when the reality happens, they've already accepted that it's not real. And the theater of cruelty was supposed to be like an assault on the senses and just like all of this stuff hitting you all at once. Antonin Artaud, I think I already said he founded the theater of cruelty, but I also don't remember what I said. So he was originally a part of the Surrealists, and then he was kicked out because Andre Breton loved to kick people out of the Surrealists. But specifically because like Antonin Artaud would not disavow theater as being an arm of the bourgeois, like, you know, class, and they were just like, theater is inherently bourgeois and whatever, and he was just like, I think you could do some crazy stuff with theater, and he did. He had a play called The Jet of Blood, which I don't think it ever really got made because I don't know how you can do it. There's literally a scene in that play where scorpions are supposed to crawl out of a woman's vagina, and so it's just like, sorry.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so like when I was thinking about like, you know, those plays, those like Antonin Artaud plays that are just like, they're weird, but they're just supposed to like be an assault on your senses and help and like bring you out of reality to a higher reality and understand more deeply, which is very surrealism. That's surrealism in a nutshell. And theater of the absurd is kind of the same, where it's just like life doesn't make sense, so why should theater make sense? And it's like, you know, kind of casting off the traditional theatrical Aristotelian, you know, philosophy of like, we'll plot a narrative and realism and whatever. And they were just like, what if it was weird and sad? And dealt a lot with sexual transgression, and and especially theater of the absurd was a post-war response to the world, and was very rooted in surrealism and Dadaism. And Jean Genet, you know, it was a huge figure, and all of these people writing these plays that were like weird and like talking about how people will make decisions in those plays that are not, they don't have motivations, they're just doing things. And it reminded me of when Louis was talking about the plays, and he was like, there was barely motivated violence and cruelty that was for no reason other than for cruelty itself. And Armand is like, well, life is cruel, like life is violent, because that's like, I think we have this like we have these conflicts, I think, with Armand and Louis, where Louis wants to find the deeper meaning behind everything, even his own story, which to try and find the meaning in your life implies that there's a narrative inherent to life. And Armand, I think, doesn't ascribe to that belief. He's like, things happen to you and then you die. And there's no meaning or rhyme or reason to any of it, because that would imply that pain is for a higher purpose, when pain is just because people want to hurt you. And so like his plays kind of reflect that, where it's just like weird stuff, cruelty, violence for the sake of it. But also like I was thinking, so that's like kind of like, to me, very theater of the absurd. And then when we have like that magic, the incantation of like the ways in which Armand has never really left the Children of Darkness. He's always kind of stayed in that realm of the magical and the mystical and the cultish. And they refer to the last play as like the Blood Sabbath. So it's like there is this, you know, return to ritual, this return to magic, and this return to the mythical and mystical in the Théâtre des Vampires. And one of the points of the Theatre of the Cruel was to show man a reflection of himself, was to, in this chaos, pull a mirror up to the audience, which Santiago does directly.
Yeah, I was just about to say,
he talks to the audience a lot. And in the last play, when he's talking to the man, and he's just like, everybody here is complicit in what happened. Everybody here is fine with violence if it's entertaining to you. And know that, you know, the people sitting next to you are going to sell you out if they feel, if it's going to save their own skin. So like, there is no brotherhood of man. And it's supposed to be holding a reflection back. And like he kind of says, like when they're talking about all the things and like these taboo desires, he's like, we're revealing your darkness, your insanity, your disturbed soul. So that's, I was thinking a lot about all of this when I was watching the Théâtre des Vampires performance.
Yeah, no, that's great. You're our resident artist who went to art school, who has a lot of really great knowledge that you have shared with me, and I'm glad that you could share it with the rest of the class.
And like so many of the writers are playwrights, and back when the writers' room was like sharing their like reading lists, one of the things was the Paris letters from Jean Genet, who's one of the the main figures of the
There's
theater
a lot of
of the
interesting
absurd.
books that they shared. I
Mm-hmm.
think I bought a couple. Have I read them? No. Haven't had time in the last few years. I mean, I have read other things. I can, but whatever.
But yeah,
I never got around to it. But yeah.
This is
that's amazing. I mean, like, you have like super deep things to say about all of that because your background. I'm over here like, it's fuck Santiago every day, but Ben Daniels,
he's so charismatic.
His performance is like amazing.
He's so charismatic.
Does amazing, and it's great. And
I think I had described to him.
There's a reason why, like, he really does like pull the audience in, and that charisma is there is a weapon.
Yeah,
I mean, it's how he's able to later on like kind of weave his way into pretending that he's really like Claudia's friend while not really being there for her at all. But yeah, he did a fantastic job, and Claudia is into
everything. She's obsessed, and I love the stark difference when the woman Annika Ruman shows up on stage, because it is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like that actress, who I think I learned was like a PA on the crew. Like I think you
said that.
Yeah, she was a crew member who was like, I could do the role, and so that's crazy. But like, she did such a good job of like bringing this like actual but palpable terror and fear to the moment, and it's so off. It's so uncomfortable, and like the way that everyone shuffles out of the theater in silence, because it's just like you will have to sit with what you saw, which is it's very even if it is like a performance, it's like there's a couple of times when they show the audience and people like kind of like look and they're like like they don't know whether they should be laughing or scared or sad. Like they don't know how they're supposed to react to it because in their mind of the realism of the moment. And so it's like their empathy struggling with them being like, I'm watching a show, right? This is a show. And ultimately no one does anything. They just leave. No one, calls the cops. No one does anything. They're just like, okay, that was really weird. And they have like a regular fan base, people who show up every night. Right. And it's like,
but I guess it's part of the show, which is, as you just talked about, everything that they did before that helps them kind of fall into a space where they're able to like believe that it's just part of the show, even if it is super uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah. And so then they go downstairs, they meet the theater, and it is so, oh my god. So when I was watching this episode with my sister, who has a degree in musical theater, she literally was like, oh my god, because of how theater it is. When like Armand is like, it's the delivery. When he's just like, if we want, to bring such and such on stage, we have to practice it off stage.
The way that I rolled my eyes while watching it again this time, I'm like, you are so irritating.
And my sister was like, oh my god, because they are so theater. That is so
literally
it's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, professional theater guy Asad Zaman, of course, got it perfect.
I'm sure he was having a great time.
I'm the director now. But yeah. And then like, them making the big show of being like, we're offended that you didn't, and then they're like, teehee, it's fine actually. And they all just start like hugging and kissing them on the cheek.
Yeah.
It's cool.
He's like, the entire time. He don't want to fucking be there. Especially after the show, he was not fucking with. He was not fucking with that.
But I think he was also like bewildered because he was like the only other vampire he's seen that's not Claudia for the past 5 or 6 years has been a weird monster and like his creepy old decrepit maker who looked like a skeleton already, and then he just sees like a bunch of guys, like a bunch of people who are just like chilling and having fun. Yeah. And like then, you know, them having to think very quick on their feet about when they're like, who's your maker? Because like Santiago's already like, something's off with these people.
Yeah.
And he's just like, who's your maker? And when he's just like,
I also think that before you go into that, I think part of it's just like Armand's interest already in Louis, I think, is very present. I mean, he
because
very
if Claudia could feel their lust, then so could Santiago.
And not only that, he very intentionally during the play, the show, he goes up to Armand and does a little like kiss thing, and Louis was like, he was like, the fuck.
Louis looking like, what is this?
Yeah, I think that was very intentional from Santiago, because there already is like this energy from him, which I think is also kind of in Daniel a little bit. Like there's this sexual tension that's there, and it makes them very combative in a way. And
white men love to be possessive of Armand.
Yeah, and they feel the need to put other folks in their place in however way that they can. So I think that's kind of the energy that's already like radiating off of him, and the fact that, you know, Armand was fine with like letting them take their time, letting them take 5 whole months before doing anything about them not showing up, and then right away can feel like, again, the lust that's there. Claudia's saying that was crazy, by the way. I'm like, whoa, yeah, the boundaries, they're not there.
No.
And they're dissolved.
Yeah, I think for sure, like Santiago is already feeling jealous. But yeah, and then we have Claudia coming up with a story on the fly. She's going crazy, that cat. She's running around. But it's fine.
It's almost time for food. 30 minutes.
Yeah, so then like and then, you know, Claudia points out something she noticed that Louis hasn't noticed yet, which is there's a big portrait of Lestat on the wall. And, you know, Armand being like, oh yeah, that's our co-founder and the finest actor to walk our stage, Lestat de Liancourt. And we get the cut to commercial basically from Daniel, who's just like, wow.
And here Daniel goes again, though, being annoying as fuck with the weird racist shit. Because why are you putting on an accent, being like, it's a telenovela, and being annoying as fuck about it? Can you like not be normal for 2 seconds? I know that everyone thinks it's so funny, but I don't find it funny. It's so annoying. Even as someone who has, you know, I've enjoyed Daniel in the past, but like he. We have to admit that he is he's racist. He does racist shit. Just because
he could have just said a soap opera, but he chose to be like a telenovela and put on the accent and have them be like Juan and Roberto and whatever.
Like, weird. You're weird. Anyways,
and so then we have like, you know, them being like, yes, Armand knew Lestat. Yes, he was with Lestat briefly. And I love Armand,
but it's no big deal because like I fucked everyone in the theater.
But what I was gonna say was like Armand saying like the most like gay. He's like, well, the community is really small, so like that's bound to happen. And I was like,
yeah,
gay people.
Gay people in theater at that.
Oh my god,
brother.
Well, he's just like, you know, my ex is ex. We're a small community, and it's just like, yeah, everybody knows everybody. But sometimes,
unfortunately.
And then like we do have, you know, Armand, you know, his whole like I fucked Santiago and Celeste and Estelle, and like the Chuan and Kwang Fam thing when like Louis just like. Which means, like, did he not mention that to Louis until this moment? I
guess not. He didn't mention
He's like, I'm keeping
that
one. That one close to the chest.
You don't need to know about all that.
Yeah, that's my wild card to throw out at a strategic moment.
And I'm choosing it now.
I'm choosing it now. But yeah, and then, like, we have... This is a scene that I was thinking about a lot because I was trying to figure out my thoughts on it, which is like Louis going to the Roger and Albert, like the banker scene when he's like, And I'm like, it's one of those scenes that I get. It's like very perfunctory in the sense of like, I understand why it needed to be there because they needed Louis to visit the Roger, so that it could be commented on later, and also establish who Roger is for a little bit later in the season as well. And then but it's also to me like the weakest appearance of the ghost Lestat, because I don't know when Lestat would have written that letter, because he's not a human being, so I don't know why he would be preparing for his own death unless it was like in the midst of the murder things. But then since he had an agent on the inside, I don't think he thought he was actually gonna die.
Yeah, I've always wondered that too, especially
Like,
because
when did he write that and
he's
why?
not really the kind of guy who thinks ahead like that
Yeah.
anyways. He's a very in the moment impulse like kind of guy. So I also don't know. Yeah,
It's one of the ones that I was just like, but why? And like, I also get that it's there so that Daniel can be flippant about it, so it can lead into this next scene. But I think like on its own, if we talk about it, like not as like not like the way it operates on like a technical level, but the way that it operates narratively in the story, in the world of the story. I don't know how I feel about it, because I'm just like, it relies on one character doing something that I don't really think they would have done.
Out of character, yeah.
Yeah. And like, it only makes sense to me if it's like a threat, because like the letter's kind of threatening. Like when he's just like, because it's implying murder, right? When he's just like, don't spend your life chasing down the people who did this thing, when he's the one who did it. Louis is the one who did it, and he's just like, I'll always be on the other side, of this whole, there's a threat here, especially because the last time we saw the apparition of Lestat, it was like, when I get you. So to have this come back, I see people talk about it very romantically, but like, it feels threatening to me. Like, this is a threat, like, we're always connected. Remember that.
Don't forget.
So I don't know. It's like fine, but it's one of those things, if I think about it too hard, I'm just like, I don't get it. But then it does lead into them bullying Daniel hardcore. And accidentally triggering a memory of the last time he
got bullied by Armand. He's like, wait a minute, this feels familiar.
I will say there is a Daniel line delivery here. I guess technically an Eric line delivery, because Daniel's not an actor. That I do like, because I love it when you can feel someone, it feels very naturalistic. And when like he's talking about like the purple dress, and like you can hear him say, like, when he was like, I liked the way she looked in it, and then he aborts that line and says she was confident in it. And so I don't know, there's something about like the you could feel he was going to say something else and then chose a different way to say it, because I also think in his mind it changes it from being like, well, I liked the way she looked in it, and being like, well, no, she was confident when she wore the dress. I'm more like, it's not about me in the situation, it's about how she felt and whatever. While they're talking about this, like, whatever. But I like it feels more real, like him trying to defend himself. He's like, no. And then like, because this is actually something that hurts. This is one of the real things. And he feels bad. And you feel, I think, the real Armand plan when he kind of is like then throwing softballs, and he's just like, maybe we should stop. And then he's like, he gives she wanted to say yes, and that whole thing, and then it leading back into him, Daniel is on the what happened next train, but like Armand being like,
and I feel like that was the other piece of, I think, also the whole let's do this together, because it also allows him to kind of, when he can allow Louis to be a little more spicy, act out a little bit, and then he can be like, I'm the reasonable one, chef, excuse Louis, let's calm down. Like,
yeah. And to me, it relates back to like at the end of season 1 when like Armand is like, sometimes Louis can act out, but I protect him from himself.
Right.
And so he's like, Louis is going a little too far, but let me step in as the voice of reason here.
Yeah. The relationship is so interesting. There's
it is
so
very
much
interesting
in their relationship. Yeah, because
she agrees.
But yeah, the relationship is so interesting to me. I think their dynamics are most interesting because, like, with the introduction, which we'll get into later, of their BDSM relationship, Armand gets to play like baby a little bit, but then at the same time, he does a lot of infantilizing with Louis as well, on the other side of it. So it's just like there's so much going on here, but
yeah, for sure. And then it leads into the end of the episode, the murder mansion scene, which is super fun. Ooh. And we have like
Armand's so fine. He looks so good riding that motorcycle. No, not dork. He look good.
Well, I'm thinking about like the whole time he's trying to be like cool.
I know, he's like
cool fidgeting with his hands and then like missing his pockets every time.
Well, that's once they actually like get out. But I'm just thinking about the ride up there first of all, and they all look good, and Clyde's having a great time, and Louis taking his little photos, and he looks like he's having a good time for once as well. And it's so much fun. But then they do get to the little mansion,
the murder mansion,
and Armand is, he's like, yeah, I'm like so cool and all, whatever, and
and I also
around.
think like the play at it being some sort of like, I don't want to say like just act, but when he's like, these people profit off of the black market, and it's just like, you don't care.
I know. You don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And then something I find very interesting, that because like, we see it in episode 1 of this season where like Armand isn't eating, and then when Louis is like, oh, are you gonna go inside, and Armand's like, no, is that we don't see Armand eat this whole season. Not really. I mean, there's like a blink and you'll miss it shot in I think like the next episode, but you have to like computer enhance, like, like zoom in and find it. But like there is something very interesting to me about like Armand never showing himself eating. And even when I think in the season finale of this season, when he has the bowl in front of him, he never eats from it. He just has it in front of him. I just find it very interesting to me that and I think that like, especially in this moment, like for Louis, that's also really intriguing because he's not seeing Armand be violent, and like there is that whole thing of like his methodology is never violent, that we haven't seen Armand be violent, and we don't see Armand be violent in that specific way, and they have this they're flirting, and you can feel
cute. Oh my god.
And you can feel that like Armand is not, he's like he's fine, but also you can feel like he got embarrassed really easy in that thing where he's just like like, and I think part of that is like alluring to Louis, that there is this like show at being like, I'm a cool guy, and then like when he's actually talking to him one-on-one, he can like feel that he's a little bit more like unsure of himself when it comes to it. And then we have Armand being like, but first business.
First
if I've noticed, other people can notice, so get it together. I made like a face when I was rewatching the scene, and Claudia's like, you've got to tighten up that loose head of yours, and I was like, oh, but like but but he's just like, like I felt trepidation when Lestat's name was mentioned, and then also you went to Roger, that's the only vampire banker in town, and we know of Roger because he was Lestat's banker, don't go there anymore. And then he's like, also I'll teach you how to like put a lid on it. And I think also that brings Louis in as well, because he's like, I know something's up, but also you can tell me when you're ready. I'm not going to force you to tell me about it now. And Louis like, okay. And then also the teaching him things, the being like, I will be a mentor, I will be a teacher, because like that's what Armand's job has been for the past like cajillion years. Like he teaches he's the onboarding, you know, trainer for vampires. He's seen a million vampires be made, and he's helped them through these years and taught them what they need to know. And like in that way, he's very different from Lestat, because like he does have he will teach you, and that's really, you know, that's really alluring to Louis. But then also I think like Louis is now realizing the potential danger of the situation.
Like his face falls when, you know, he mentions it, because he's like, well, fuck, I think I could be possibly in trouble. And as they're driving away with flames going, he's sitting there like, fuck.
Especially because he sees how happy Claudia is, so it's not a cut and run situation.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of like maintaining the proximity to the theater because Claudia is going to be a part of it, and also he likes this guy, but also maintaining a distance from it where he still feels safe is going to be the balancing act he has to do as this whole situation goes on. But then we also, you know, we kind of know that like Armand doesn't really want him to be distant from the theater, have any distance from the theater. But yeah, that's kind of where the episode ends, and like where we are with these first 2 episodes.
So that was the episode. I love episode 2, to be honest. Honestly, I love episode 1 and 2. I love the introduction of Delaney. So I have such fond feelings for episode 1. I have such fond feelings for episode 2, because we're finally, you know, being introduced to the theater, being introduced to like well, you know, Louis and Armand's relationship. I'm using the ship name, but you know, Louis and Armand's relationship. And I just, you know, I find the beginnings of it very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this episode.
I love it too.
And I love also like Claudia finally, even though it doesn't last very long, but like as Louis literally says, like this is the first time he's seen her smile since they've like been out here. And she's like truly happy, which does make it hurt a lot more later, but it's nice to finally see. So there's a lot of really like nice things happening before the storm.
I think the same thing, because I just thought about this. I was like, haha. But like the Claudia talking about like the things that drew her to it is like, one, the fact that they don't feel any shame for what they do.
Right.
They feel pride in being vampires. And then also when she points out there's people of color in this coven, and it's being led by, and she says like a vampire with skin darker than yours. And she's just like, this is the first non-white vampire she's ever met who's not her or Louis. So I think she's thinking like,
that means a lot.
It means a lot. And they kind of have the same views on things as her. She's just like, I can find community here. I can make community here with community. And so that also means a lot to her as well. But yeah, I think another big reason of why she's trying so hard to make it work, and why Louis wants to make it work for her as well. But yeah, all of that to say, these are all the things that are kind of introduced in these first 2 episodes. I love these 2 episodes. We could obviously talk about them for a million years, but we have to stop at some point. So yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, I know there's definitely things I think I forgot that I wanted to add, but it's fine. Whatever, it's fine. But yeah, so I guess if you enjoyed this, you know, leave a little like. Feel free to comment to add to the discussion. Maybe it'll pull up some of the other things I had wanted to talk about, because I know there's something else and it's annoying me, but it's okay. And subscribe. Also, I'm really excited because they released a little something today where I got to see, you know, like Delaney. I'm like, yes, finally. Oh, give it to me. So and now I'm excited again. I've been waiting for her. But yeah. As we continue to count down to season 3, we are getting close.
Oh God.
And but yeah, that's it.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.